Welcome back, everyone, to the first episode of our fourth season of All About America's Team. I am your host, Ray Nickens, back from my 6-month vacation. You may be wondering, Ray, how are you allowed to take so much time off? Well, the benefits of this job is because it's not paid and there are no health or insurance benefits, I have the benefit of working whenever I please. But I am back for the season and joined with my co-host as always.
Oh, and the Chico.
And we are here to talk about the season, our predictions for the season, some
Yeah.
players that we hope to break out, some players we expect not to break out. Well, I'll probably be doing most of that. And then also to dive into the Dallas Cowboys' first opponent, the Cleveland Browns. So, with that being said, happy to be back, happy to be joined by my fellow co host, and let's get the ball rolling on our fourth season of pain and suffering.
Well, Ray, it's good to have you back. Definitely the um the podcasts have not been as objective since you have been gone. So glad that we can now add some more objectivity to our lives. But the main news, just a kind of training camp wide news. Sam Williams is going to be out for the year, which is very difficult to hear because he was going to be playing a lot of, probably be starting. Deron Bland is going to be out until the 49ers game. They'll probably open up his 21-day window around week 5. And then we have the bye before the 49er game, so that'll be good. CeeDee Lamb got an extension, so that's great. And also, Dak might be, the whispers are that they hope to sign him before the start of the regular season. As of right now, the only thing that they are kind of not agreeing on is years. Now I don't know if that's just Jerry doing or negotiating to the media like he always does, or if it's actually years. Cowboys want a shorter year deal, like 3 years, and Dak wants more 4 to 5, so that you can stretch his cap hits, so that you can sign guys like Micah, Sam Williams, Deron Bland, Tyler Smith, all these young guys to keep the core together. The only reason why I would think that Jerry would kind of want a 3 year deal is because of what happened with Tony Romo when Dak kind of took over and he retired. There was a huge cap hit in 2017 that was kind of difficult for Dallas to move around. And there was a lot of huge cap hits because a lot of the big time offensive linemen and a lot of other big players were either leaving or retiring. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I would assume that in Jerry Jones fashion that I'm going to predict that Dak will get signed before the Thursday night game. So we'll see if that, or I think the Eagles play on Friday, so either Thursday or Friday, one of those two games. And that's what I kind of predict. That's all I have for news. Ray, this is, like you said, our fourth year. Every year it gets more difficult than the last. Great regular seasons, and then for whatever reason, Dallas just forgets to play football, or they, like you said a few years ago, they just run in Cabo Sand for the few weeks before the postseason. But what do you think they'll do in the regular season, and then kind of expectations for the postseason if they make it that far? And do you think that they'll win the division? And yeah, that's what are your thoughts?
Well, before I dive into that, I think that any news of extending players is a positive. CeeDee Lamb was a necessity to get signed and should have been signed months ago. His deal could have been a done deal before Justin Jefferson signed, and the Cowboys would have saved quite a bit of money. So I'm glad that he's signed, but it just brings my frustration to maximum level that they just continue to drop the ball relating to contracts. They wait it out and then spend way too much money than they didn't need to do. Not saying that CeeDee Lamb does not deserve being paid that money. He absolutely does. He's been a top receiver since. I mean, he's been a receiver that has been consistent since he's come out of college, and he has gotten better and better, and now a certified top 5 receiver in the league. So he does deserve it, but I'm saying they could have gotten away with giving him much less money if they had chosen to get this deal done much quicker. Regarding Dak, I mean, I don't really have much to say regarding that. I do think that Dak I think the reason for Dak wanting extended years is more so that he has financial stability for an extended period of time, and has and will be, the Cowboys quarterback for an extended period of time. I don't think he's wanting, to keep the core of guys together, because if he really wanted that, he would have been signed for less money, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, if they get him signed, great. If they don't, also great, because I mean, it opens the door of you get, he's been in Dallas for 8 years now. This will be his 9th season with Dallas, or maybe this is his 8th season. It's getting close to, Tony Romo's tenure with the Cowboys. And this is kind of the year. I mean, he's had, 3 straight years of a lot of, and this is where I kind of tailor into my regular season prediction. The Cowboys under his helm, the last 3 years, they've been a top team in the NFC. They've been fighting for the number 1 seed all 3 of those years, finishing with very solid records, 13-4, 12-5, around that margin. And then predictably losing in the first round, or losing in the second round. So I think that the most likely scenario, and Owen's not going to like it, is that the Dallas Cowboys don't pay Dak Prescott, because they don't need to pay Dak Prescott. And they'll wait it out and see what's what, see if anything changes, or if he shows any sort of ability to extend their success past one playoff game. And then they'll come back the next year, and Dak will have the opportunity to hit free agency, and we'll see what happens. But moving on into my season prediction, I think the Dallas Cowboys will once again be a good team. They are going to beat up on the NFC East, even though the NFC East has some rookie additions. Jaden Daniels as the quarterback in Washington. Malik Neighbors joining the Giants. The Eagles acquiring Saquon Barkley, Jaheim Dotson, fortifying some defensive players, new offensive coordinator. New offensive coordinator. But I do think the Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East, and I think that they have enough opponents around their skill level that they'll beat up on, or less. And I'm going to say that they're going to finish around 11-6, 12-5 again. And unfortunately for Owen and I and all the other Cowboys fans, they will once again be falling in the playoffs before the conference title. I'm going to be nice and say that they win their first round game and then ultimately lose in the second round. And you can take your pick between Detroit, San Francisco, Green Bay, whoever they end up. The only team that I would say that they would beat in the second round is the Falcons. But I do think it's going to be the same old Dallas Cowboys that we've been seeing for the last 3 seasons, really since we started this show. It's going to be the same old Cowboys in the postseason. they're going to look great in the regular season, but fall in the postseason. Hopefully, there'll be some changes related to the head coach, and if they have to make change at quarterback, so be it. So that's kind of my take. Any thoughts, and also
Yeah.
your take?
So I want to comment on like the contract situations. I mean, you did in the beginning. So the Lamb one, his contract, they didn't pay him more because they waited. I don't know why they were off on $1.5 million. He didn't want to get paid more than Justin Jefferson. I thought that after the Justin Jefferson contract was finalized, that he would have been signed within seconds after, but that's not what happened. And Jerry likes to negotiate through the media, so he was saying that he had some comments that CeeDee Lamb was not a fan of, and they wanted CeeDee Lamb to sign to a longer contract. CeeDee Lamb wanted to sign to a shorter contract so that he can get another contract extension before he hits 30, which is what most great players want to do. They want to get at least 2 contracts in before they hit 30. So I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that they lost any money in those negotiations or whatever. Now, regarding Dak, I think that the thing with him is that I don't agree. I think for one thing that Dak's already said that him taking like I don't a significant amount of money a significant pay decrease would be a bad look for him in the CBA. Um, he whatever no one knows what amount of money that he wants. It hasn't really talked about it, but it has. I do think that him wanting a longer deal, just like his deal in 2019 was that it was a longer deal so that every year they just pushed more and more money back so that they were able to retain guys. And I think that Dak would want something similar because the core is they are going to be going up for contract negotiations. Like I was talking to Ray before we started. Bland is going to have to get one. Tyler Smith doesn't have to get one. A lot of guys that Dallas drafts well. But I think that if what you were saying that they should let the season play out. Dak throughout his whole Dallas Cowboys career, he's played on franchise tags. What they should have done is paid him when they first could have 3 years into his deal because he hadn't hit, or at that point you could have signed him to a kind of not a long year deal, but not a lot of money per year. If he goes out and for whatever reason, like goes to a conference championship game or they win the Super Bowl or something like that, just in a fairy tale or whatever, it's going to make their ability to pay him in the offseason on like an open market would be ridiculous. The last time that Dallas let someone hit the open market and they got him back was Amari Cooper. The Commanders at the time had offered him more money, but he decided to stay with Dallas. If Dak hits the open market, Ian Rappaport has talked about it, that the amount of teams are going to be coming out for him that are going to give him are going to bring a Brinks truck to his house. I think that if Dallas does not sign him before the Browns game, and even Dak said it, he's like, if they depend, the team morale is going to, kind of, it's either going to be swayed negatively or positively depending on how these contract negotiations go down. I think that they're going to sign him before the Browns game. And if they don't, then he is going to go elsewhere and Dallas will be in quarterback hell until they pick a 4th round guy or let a guy or just pick up a UDFA and he turns into Tony Romo or something like that. I don't think that Dallas has the slightest clue how to evaluate quarterbacks. But moving on to the season expectations, I think Dallas will go 11-6 or 12-5. I have them losing to the Ravens, 49ers, Falcons, Texans, Eagles, and possibly the Week 17 or Week 18 Commanders game, depending on if they sit their guys or if they don't. So I think they'll win a playoff game. I think that out of all the coaches that are on their 1-year deal, Mike McCarthy's ability to stay kind of is dependent on how they perform in the playoffs. And As Dallas showed last year, winning the division or not winning the division doesn't really have an impact. I yeah, I think that they'll win at least one, and then hope to go on from there. But I do think that depending on how this season rolls out, that the team could be a lot different this year than next year. I know we say that every year, but I think that there could be some significant changes. But Ray, I just had some quick big picture questions for you. You can either go one by one, or I could just like roll them all out. Who do you think is going to be the most improved player from 2023?
I think I'm gonna go. This is a tough one because I'm going to go with the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to say most improved player. I'm going to say Damone Clark is going to be the most improved player. I was tempted to say Trayvon Diggs because he didn't play a snap, but that would be a cop out. But I'm going to go with Damone Clark. I'm both expect him to receive a lot more playing time considering Van Der Esch is not there. Micah typically plays more down by the line of scrimmage. And then it would be him who has the most experience. I guess they brought in Eric Kendricks as a linebacker, but of returning guys, it would be him and then Overshown, but Overshown hasn't played really any snaps in the regular. Well, he did not play any regular season snaps last year. So I'm going to go with Damone Clark. I think Deron Bland, with the season he had last year, there's not really much chance to, exceed expectations of the year prior, especially missing more than a quarter of the season. So I'm going to go with Damone Clark, and really it would boost their defense a lot because if they can get solid linebacker play, I think it would really bolster their ability to stop the run. So I'm going to go with Damone Clark.
All right. I'm going to pick Terrence Steele. I think that several times last year he looked not great. And obviously coming off an ACL injury for an offensive tackle or just alignment is super difficult. Especially if it happens late in the season and then you play week one. According to Brian Broaddus, he looks a lot better and looks a lot more athletic, which is good. So hopefully he'll be able to look like he did 2 years ago, the year that he tore his ACL, because they will need him to play at that level, because you're not going to be able to put tight ends or give help to both tackles. And with Tyler Guyton being a rookie left tackle, who's looked very good in the preseason, did really well against Mason Crosby in the preseason, and Terrence Steele is going to have to kind of do much better than he did in 2023 to be able to just have a much better offensive line and have a much better running game. So Ray, I'm gonna just knock all these 4 out, and then you can or 5 out, and then you can tell me them. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP for your Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. Well, Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's really not much other than I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the center. I'm going to go with I know his last name's Beebe. Tanner, is it Tanner or Tyler? Cooper, not even close. Cooper Beebe. I'm going to go with him. I think that losing, even though Owen did not really like Tyler Biotish, I think that it's going to be what he did bring was, consistent snaps. Dallas did not have a lot of fumble between the QB center exchanges. There were not a lot of bad snaps with Tyler Biotish. He was very consistent setter regarding that. So I think it's going to be huge for Dallas to, have him come in. The protection schemes are going to be fluid, and there's going to be stability within the offensive line and between quarterback and center and exchanges and all that. And I think that's going to be really important for Dallas to continue to have their offensive success within the regular season and hopefully in the postseason. So I'm going to go with Cooper Beebe as my offensive rookie of the year. Defensive rookie of the year. Defensive rookie of the year. I am going to go. I'm going to go with Kalen Carson, mainly because he's going to be filling in and for Deron Bland and starting for at bare minimum 5 weeks. And one thing that Dallas has proven that they're able to do very well is evaluate defensive backs. They've hit on Trevon Diggs, they've hit on Deron Bland, and they've, for the most part, hit on. It's been a while. Jordan Lewis, Jordan Lewis, Donovan Wilson. I know the last names. The first names hurt me. Their defensive, their secondary has always been a very consistent part of their defense. It's really been the defensive line and linebacking core that has always been a little bit shady at times. So I'm gonna go with Kalen Carson. I have faith in their ability to evaluate defensive backs, so that would be my defensive rookie of the year. Offensive player of the year, CeeDee Lamb, pretty easy. He's gonna be a top receiver as usual. I don't really think the layoff and not playing a lot of games is going to really hurt them. If it does, then it'll be communication with the quarterback. But at this point, when you've played with Dak Prescott for at bare minimum 3 years, you should have pretty good chemistry with your quarterback at this point. So, and then defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. I'm pretty sure I said that last year too, but he's the best player by far on the defense, and I expect him to wreak havoc as usual, get to the quarterback, create turnovers, pressure, sacks, all that fun stuff. And then Cowboys MVP, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb because he is he's the X factor on that offense. And if CeeDee Lamb is not there, then the offense will fall off a cliff entirely. So I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I bet some people were expecting me to say Zeke. I'm not saying Zeke. So CeeDee
Lamb. My offensive rookie, I picked Cooper Beebe, but since Ray already talked about it,
looking at my notes again.
I will talk about.
We did not exchange notes.
Yeah, I have a whole thing on my iPad. So I'll talk about instead of talking about Beebe, I'll talk about him and Guyton. One thing that Dallas has not been able to have over the last few years is the same 5 offensive linemen out there for a prolonged amount of time. Most of that's due to Tyron Smith being out for so many weeks, but he is in New York, and I'm sure that he will play 17 weeks because that is how things work out. But I think that it's going to be great for Dallas to have, hopefully, knock on wood, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, and Terrence Steele play 17 weeks together. Cooper Beebe is a very powerful right guard for Kansas State last year, won, and I think he was like a unanimous All-American every single year. So one thing about Tyler Biadasz that kind of was less than ideal was that he, like the really good defensive tackles were able to push him back a lot in Dak's face, and that's never a good thing. So having Cooper Beebe, who has never played to it, I think, snapping for the first time in training camp was something that, kind of we all thought that what's his face. We all thought that Brock Hoffman was going to be playing center just because of how Mike Solari loves him. And we kind of, as training camp went on, realized that the only thing keeping Cooper Beebe from playing center was his snapping ability. So now that has been finalized. He's good to go. And Guyton played right tackle at Oklahoma because Gabriel is a lefty. So he was a blindside blocker, and now he's going to be playing left tackle for Dak, for the Cowboys. So I'm very excited to see how these two play. If Ray talks about Dallas hitting on cornerbacks, and they normally do with Al Harris and company, and Dallas hits on offensive linemen. So if they can have these starting five out there, hopefully this is not Zach Martin's last year, but I have faith in their ability to. I have faith in the left tackle and center ability to play well. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I went with Nealand. He was drafted in the second round, and he is a predominant run-stuffing defensive end, which is something that Dallas has needed for a while, which is why they got rid of guys like Dante Fowler and other guys. And went to God, he's a commander now. The reason why Dorrance Armstrong, why they lost both of them, was because they were not very good against the run, and they just got a lot of sack numbers, which is great, but they were getting abused in the run game. So having Nealand, who has hopefully throughout the course of the year will get some pass rushing, will have some better pass rushing moves. Offensive Player of the Year, I picked Lamb. Ray already talked about it. Defensive Player of the Year, Parsons, and for MVP I put Dak. This team will go as far as Dak takes them, and as long as every other unit plays well, and you don't have CeeDee Lamb dropping passes or the secondary not even being on the same zip code as the Packers wide receivers and tight ends. I think that with Mike Zimmer, this defense can be a lot better. Ray talked about how Micah plays at the line. Micah, we moved everywhere. With Dan Quinn, one thing that really annoyed me was against the 49ers and the Giants, how Dan Quinn would always put Micah against their left tackle. So Trent Williams and Andrew Thomas, and they're the two of the best left tackles in the league. And we always were like, why don't you put him against the right tackle? Evan Neal's not that good. DeMarcus Lawrence had a 3-sack game against him 2 years. Like, why don't we put Micah Parsons against him? And Zimmer's already talked about how he's going to be playing a lot of linebacker, which is good because, we need, like Ray said, we need better linebacking core. And even without Micah Parsons, the linebacking core will be a lot better with Maris Liufau out of Notre Dame, Eric Kendricks, Overshown, who is, can do everything, and Damone Clark. So that core, and I think Buddy Johnson as well made the team as a linebacker. Buddy Johnson also made the team. Yeah,
he's backup middle linebacker or one of the
those five are going to be great. And Micah, we all know that that whenever Micah lines up against a center, does really well, to kind of like Myles Garrett does. So moving him all over the place is going to be great because you're not going to know where he's coming from, and you're not going to have to worry about him going up against the top left tackle anymore. I think the team, even though they kind of lost a good amount in free agency, that the team is a lot more well-rounded now. They don't have as much depth on the defensive line as we would have liked, but they did bring in Jordan Phillips. They traded with him for the Giants, who was a Bill last year when Dallas got mauled by the Bills. Jordan Phillips was a big reason for why that happened. So getting him, the Giants, they traded him because one of the rookies that they got, one of the younger guys, just was a better fit for their scheme. So Dallas got him up for a 7th round pick, I believe, who's going to play 3 tech behind Osa. Osa and Jordan are going to flip flop. And then Linval Joseph is going to be your nose tackle behind Mozzie. And I think kind of like last year with Hankins, is that Mozzie is going to kind of play occasionally, and I would expect Linval Joseph to kind of get a chunk of the snaps. And hopefully Mozzie has a much better year than he did his rookie year, because they're gonna need it. And as of right now, I think the biggest weakness on the team right now is their cornerback room. I know that Ray was talking about before, but Diggs coming off an ACL injury is going to be tough. I wonder. Hopefully, he does not have a Michael Gallup or Terrence Steele return, and a fifth-round rookie in Kalen Carson. So hopefully, with Mike Zimmer playing a lot of cover two, there's going to be a lot of help instead of both of them being on an island. But now transitioning to week 1. The first time that Dallas has played an AFC team opening up in several years. So what does Dallas need to do to win this game, Ray?
Well, the good thing about this matchup is the Cleveland Browns still have not seen the best of Deshaun Watson, who they gave up a lot of capital for and gave a lot of money. So Dallas does have the advantage at quarterback, and they also have the advantage with talent on their offense. I think that what Dallas really needs to do is they need to be able to contain Myles Garrett, and it's going to be a solid test for the rookies on this offensive line, and I think it's great that they're getting to go to battle against the Cleveland Browns week 1, and we're going to really see how ready these players are to go against the best defensive, or currently now that Aaron Donald is retired, the best, in my opinion, the best defensive line player in football, Myles Garrett. So I think they're going to have to contain him. Another thing I think they have to do is they have to find a way to run the ball effectively. I mean, the fact that Dallas really did not put any significant time in, getting some sort of a pulse at running back is quite astronomically confusing to me. I know they signed Dalvin Cook recently, but I think that is not going to help them whatsoever because Dalvin Cook is over the hill as well as Ezekiel Elliott. So, I mean, really, they're going to have to find some sort of success running the ball with Rico Dowdle. And from there, I think, CeeDee Lamb is good enough to get open. Brandon Cooks is good enough to get open. And we'll go from there. So I think really the key for them is to, have consistency on offense, take care of the football, get in the end zone early, and then they can kind of play, their type of ball, which I think is not going to change from to Mike Zimmer from, gosh, I totally wiped his name from my brain after the Dan Quinn. But I don't think their philosophy is going to change much from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer. They're going to use, their strongest and their biggest advantage, which is their pass rush, and they're going to get after the quarterback, get after Deshaun Watson, who, he's coming off a shoulder surgery, and really hasn't looked his best since he was playing for the Houston Texans. So I think if the Cowboys can, get off to a solid start, take care of the football, and be able to get to Deshaun Watson effectively, they should be able to win this game against Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland with Cleveland not having Nick Chubb for this game. I think Dallas has like I said, has an advantage on offense. And I mean, the Cleveland Browns defense is a formidable defense. They're really good. But if Dallas can show that they, their rookies are ready to play and they can, pass block for Dak, run the football somewhat, they should be able to win this game.
Yeah, Ray mentioned the rookies. I know in years past are just kind of, I think, league wide now. When you draft someone, you expect them to be like an All-Pro week 1. I think it's irrational to expect Tyler Guyton to, stop Myles Garrett from like having any pressures or anything like that. All we want to see, or all I want to see, is Tyler Guyton win some reps against Myles Garrett. If that happens, then I think you're looking in the right. You're in a pretty good position at left tackle. What we do not want is a repeat of 2019, where against the Falcons, where Chaz Green gave up 6 sacks and Dak could literally do nothing. So as long as, like Ray said, they can contain, what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to put your blocking tight ends, either Schoonmaker or Brevin Spanford out of Minnesota, the UDFA. You're gonna have to put one of them, or maybe even both of them, at left tackle, at a wing on the left or right side of the offense. And also, this game, or any game with a really good defensive end or defensive tackle, is where Zeke is going to be extremely useful, because regardless of his inability to be the runner he was early on in his career, he can still pass block really well. So that'll be very useful. I think Rico Dowdle is the best running back in the room, and Ray said that he didn't understand why they didn't kind of put any draft capital or draft stock into the running back room. Dallas, from what I heard, so in the first round, they traded back and they got a 3rd round pick because they sent a 4th rounder for Trey Lance, who is probably going to be cut, or not cut. He's not going to be in the team next year. So that 4th round pick would have been used as a running back. But Dallas decided to take Maris Liufau, really smart, really high IQ linebacker out of Notre Dame. And then when Cooper Beebe fell in their laps, you kind of have to take him. He was rated as the best center in football, in college football at least. So I think what Brian Broaddus was saying, and he kind of used to be a scout for Dallas. He still does media for them. Said that as the rounds went on, and the guys that Dallas was looking at, so after the 4th round, when comparing the running backs to their current running back room, they didn't think that any of them were better than Rico Dowdle. And the only negative to Rico Dowdle is kind of injury history. But everybody, that even Mike McCarthy, everybody's saying that it's going to be running back by committee. So hopefully, I would like is for Rico Dowdle to get a bunch of the snaps, and then put Deuce Vaughn when I hope that he has a bigger role in the offense, and then Zeke can pass protect and be the goal line running back or short yardage guy. And also Ray mentioned with Lamb. So the Browns love to play man defense, and last year Dak earned the highest completion percentage and the 2nd most yards per attempt against man coverage, and the Browns defense allowed the lowest completion percentage and 3rd lowest yards per pass attempt when in man coverage last year, and which means that the Cowboys are going to need someone that can a wide receiver that can get open against man. And CeeDee Lamb was the most productive wide receiver against man coverage last year, leading the NFL with 70 targets, 49 receptions, and 794 yards, which is 132 yards more than any other receiver. So the Browns have really good defense, but Lamb has shown he is capable of beating man coverage, which is, very lucky that he fell to 17 in the draft. But yeah, I think that this is a much better team to play than play like the Giants, who, we beat them 40-0 last year in the opener. So I'd much rather get tested, and Dallas gets tested again in week 3 against the Ravens. So I think that this schedule's a lot better for Dallas if they want to have success in the postseason. So we kind of touched upon it in the past when Ray was talking about Mike Zimmer. How do you think that Zimmer and the new defense, who, Dan Quinn was all about pressure and, getting to the quarterback, Zimmer is more about coverage and just having everyone behind the defensive line be sound technically, and to very different. And also Mike Zimmer is going to be on the field, and Dan Quinn was in the press box. So a lot happier that Zimmer is going to be on the field so that he can give, and if you make a bad play, Zimmer, there are all the clips of Zimmer yelling at people when he was a coach for the Bengals. So hoping that, accountability is something that happens in Dallas. So, Ray, how do you think that Zimmer and the defense will fare in the season opener?
I think they'll be fine. I mean, like I said, the Browns' strong suit the last couple of years has been their ability to run the football effectively. They did that with Baker Mayfield, and I mean, since Deshaun Watson has gotten there, that's always been their strongest suit, been able to run the football. And then when you saw a guy like Joe Flacco who came in and started lighting up in the passing game, it was the perfect balance. When they got a guy who could work within the offense, and the passing game really had a boost. But he's not there. It's Deshaun Watson again. Like I said, there's not much. There's not much of evidence that Deshaun Watson will ever reach back to his peak of talent or ability or performance. So I think Dallas is going to be fine on defense. They're not playing Jordan Love. Again, week one, they're playing Deshaun Watson, who's coming off shoulder surgery. And I think they'll do fine. If their defensive line can, stop Jerome Ford, and force the Browns to beat them through the air, I think they'll be okay. It'll be interesting to see, Amari Cooper go up against his former team. I assume that Diggs will probably be covering him most of the time this game. That'll be an interesting matchup to follow. And then we'll see what Elijah Moore can do against Dallas as well. So I'm excited for the game, I think. But like I said, I think the defense will be fine. It's really going to be up to the offense to take care of the ball and get in the end zone a couple of times. And I don't think Dallas will need to score 30 points to win this game. I think 24 will be more than enough. So I have faith in the defense and Mike Zimmer and the defense to get off to a positive start.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Dallas allows, make Watson beat you. Don't let Ford or any other running backs just kind of beat you like Dallas has allowed other teams to do in the past. And with how Watson has played recently, I'm quite comfortable allowing Watson to beat you. I'm also just kind of curious. There are a lot of guys coming off injuries or on the defensive side of the ball or off-season surgeries. Diggs coming off an ACL, like I talked about before. Overshown coming off of an ACL injury. Mozzie Smith coming off of shoulder surgery. Yes, shoulder surgery in the offseason. So I don't expect them to be, locked down week one with a new defense and new pieces coming in. But I just want to see improvements. I just want to see a better defense than we saw last year. And if that means that lower interceptions, and that's fine, or lower turnovers, I'm fine with that as long as, every single time that Dallas plays a top 15 or better defense, it's not a shootout like it was in Seattle last year. I'd like to see Dallas's defense be able to stop a good defense for once, which has not happened in at least last year. It didn't happen. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to seeing how Zimmer uses Micah, but I do think that just because of going up against Deshaun Watson, I do think that Mike Zimmer and the defense will do well. And Zimmer and Stefanski know each other pretty well, so I'm excited to see how this goes. We kind of talked about this next topic about will the Browns defense or the Cowboys offense be better? I think you said earlier that you think that the Cowboys offense will be just fine. I hope so as well. But anything else you want to talk about? Just the defense going up against the offense, or are you good on that topic?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Just to quick reiteration. If the Browns defense can as you talked about, get consistent pressure on the quarterback, then I think that the Browns defense, could have a field day against Dallas's offense. But I think that Dallas has enough stability on the offensive line to prevent that from happening. They've always had, as you said, solid offensive lines. They have solid offensive line coaching. So there is a pulse to where if, the Browns are having success, there are a lot of ways to combat, pass rush success, double teaming, shifting protections, adding additional, blockers. So I think the Cowboys will be okay on offense. They'll be able to not stop but contain Myles Garrett, and if they can have a pulse within the run game and CeeDee Lamb can win on the outside, they'll be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think that I saw earlier that one of the Browns offensive tackles is not going to play. I could be wrong, but they have a lot of players on that did not practice or that were limited in practice. So that's something to keep an eye open for. But yeah, I even if Dallas's offense struggles against the defense, I have a lot of faith in Dallas's defense ability to stop Watson and give Dallas short fields. But next topic is, most important matchups for this game. Matchups that if you think, depending on how this goes, will have a big, will play a big role in who wins. So Ray, I have 4 of them. I'm just gonna bang them out real quick, and then the floor is yours. I think that your 2 offensive tackles against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, who's they brought in through free agency. I think that's gonna play a huge role. Dak was one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz last year, so hopefully one of the best quarterbacks with blitz pressure in his face. Hopefully that rolls over to this year. We've all seen the iconic video of Myles Garrett doing a crossover move in front of a center. So Myles Garrett is going to move all over. So how does Cooper Beebe fare against Garrett? Because Garrett going up the middle it's pretty dangerous. And also Dak, there have been defenses that have been able to make Dak look worse than he actually is. 49ers defense has done this. So I'm just curious to see how Dak plays against Schwartz, and Dak going up against a Zimmer defense all training camp and offseason. Hopefully that's kind of, made his ability to see or to read a defense, and he can read a defense fine, but just when just certain packages, hopefully, going up against one of the better defensive coordinators that has come into the league as of late. It's only going to help him. And how Lamb does against man coverage. If Lamb is bracketed and if it's a bad day for him, then I think that it's going to be Dallas will have to go pretty one-dimensional because Brandon Cooks was pretty much non-existent last year until the Giants game, which wasn't a thing. Wasn't anything that he did wrong. He just wasn't incorporated much. And also Jalen Tolbert, who's going into his 3rd year now, which one of the good things about CeeDee Lamb not being a part of practice this offseason was that Tolbert got every single rep with the ones. And according to all the guys that have been that were in Oxnard, Jalen Tolbert had a really good camp. So hopefully that rolls over to regular season. But those are my quick 4. Ray, what are yours?
I think I don't have 4 different ones from you, so I'm just gonna add a couple. My matchups is going to be Dallas's front 7 against the Browns offensive line and running game. I think that's going to, as I've been talking about, that's going to be the most important thing that Dallas needs to do on defense is to take advantage of the fact that Nick Chubb is not playing and to be dominant against the run. And then from there they can play the pass. I think Diggs and Amari Cooper, I already mentioned that matchup. That's going to be a big matchup. basically, however many times that Diggs and Cooper match up, and that's going to be a key to their ability to kind of control the Browns' offense, because Cooper is one of the best route runners in the league, and Diggs coming off, not playing a full season. One of the advantages of getting hurt in the offseason is you get a full season and offseason of recovery. So, I mean, while Owen has expressed worry of that, I'm sure that Diggs is more than healthy after, a year and some change of rehab and surgery and getting, that knee right. So
He did play 2 games, by the way. Diggs played against the Giants and the Jets, and then he tore his ACL on the Thursday practice before
you're
week
right,
3.
practice. Okay. Well, I recede my statement, initial statement, but I do say that he's had plenty of time. He had plenty of time to recover from his ACL.
Yeah.
And then, those are my only 2. I was gonna talk about the offensive line, talk about CeeDee Lamb on the outside, and yeah, I mean we're on the same page there. So those are my 2 matchups that I think are also going to be important.
All right, so here's my surprise question, one that I did not share with you earlier, and then we're gonna kind of talk about your favorite segment that you have handcrafted. So last year, Dallas was 8-0 at home, in the regular season, of course, and they went 4-5 on the road. Now Dallas will be opening up on the road against the Browns. And one of the questions that Mike McCarthy was asked in a press conference a few days ago was if they're going to be changing anything about how they approach road games. And McCarthy talked about how he wanted everybody to get to the facilities earlier than normal in road games to kind of go over everything to make sure everybody's on the same page, and just about some other things that Mike, just stupid stuff like that. I'm sure that the in-home conversation is a lot more in depth than what he told the media. But Ray, if history repeats itself, Dallas's season will be most impacted by how they play on the road. They got embarrassed by the Cardinals last year on the road. Just several teams that they should have beat on the road, they couldn't. The first Eagles game, that should have been a win. The Cardinals game. So Ray, do you think that the Cowboys' road woes the last few years will continue, or do you think that Dallas will be a more well-rounded team in all phases of the game?
I think really what it comes down to be honest, is their opponent on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gonna determine whether or not they're successful. I mean, they played San Francisco on the road. Like you played the Bills on the road, the Dolphins on the road. So I mean,
I can tell you who they're
again.
They were 4-5 last year, but and before you go, I'm gonna give you who they're on the road against this year. So the Browns, the Giants, the Steelers, the 49ers. I wish Dallas could play the 49ers at home. The Falcons, the Commanders, and then the Eagles. So
I do think that their road record will be better than it was last year. I mean, Steelers, they should be able to beat the Steelers. The Steelers are not. I mean, they'll be a solid defensive team, but they're very similar to the Browns, where you really don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be. So the Falcons, I think they can beat the Falcons as well. The Giants, you know how I feel about the NFC East, and then the Eagles. I think the Cowboys are going to sweep the Eagles this year. The only 2 games that concern me a little bit is the game this week and then the game against San Francisco. I think that Dallas is just they are always going, in my eyes, going to lose to San Francisco because they can't beat them at home and they can't beat them on the road. So until that changes, I will not be picking Dallas against San Francisco to win ever again until that changes. So unless of course Brock Purdy is hurt and they're starting Brandon Allen or something, or Christian McCaffrey is not playing. But other than that, I won't be picking Dallas to beat San Francisco. So I do think that their road record will improve. And I mean, road record or at home record really doesn't matter to me that much because, I mean, like you said, the Cowboys have been very dominant at home the last couple of years, and they had a home playoff game and got blown out and were down 44-14 or whatever it was at home against a quarterback making his playoff debut. So that doesn't really matter to me. But in the terms of having the ability to go into another building and have success, I do think they will improve on the road.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm not gonna say exactly what Ray just said. But I think that they'll only, again, I think Mike McCarthy is an okay coach. I don't think his play calling can be so. Even last year, Dallas's offense before the bye was not very good. And then it took, I think that was probably a lot of overcorrection for trying to overcorrect Dak's high interception numbers. And then when Mike finally let Dak, throw the ball and be the quarterback that he is, the offensive kind of was number one again. So even though that the teams are not as good as Dallas, I don't know if they'll be as ready. I don't know if they'll be, as good as they are at home for whatever reason that is. So I think that Dallas I think they'll have at least a winning record based off of the rest of the teams that they play. But I am curious to see how good they play, if they dominate the Steelers or if it's like a slugfest like it was against the Cardinals. But moving on to the most important part of the game, I think Dallas will win 17-10. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. I think it's going to be just both defenses hopefully playing well. And Dallas, I would love to be wrong and say that Dallas will score 24 in the 20s, but I don't know if, the Browns are going to be in the second year of the Jim Sports defense. And I don't know if Dallas will be able to play as good as they will later in the year on offense. So hopefully Mike Zimmer and company are ready to play Deshaun Watson.
Can you say your score prediction one more time?
17-10.
17-10. Okay. I'm going to say that Dallas is going to win the game 23-10. So one more offensive touchdown. I think that Dallas is going to score most of their points in the first half and then kind of just, not slug it out, but chew the clock out in the second half. For all the reasons that I've talked about and the fact that they, there's uncertainty with the Browns quarterback situation. That gives Dallas an advantage. And I think they're going to, get the season off on a positive note. And then we can worry more about the Ravens in week 3.
Did you say 23 or 24? You said a touchdown.
23.
Okay, 23. I'm going to write that down so we'll see who's closer. Okay. Well, Ray, if nothing else to add, I will leave the floor to you for your talk about one of your proudest moments of your life, one of your proudest creations, escape from reality.
Yeah, well, just to refresh on Escape from Reality, it is the segment where we do not even bring up anything related to the Dallas Cowboys, and if you do, then you automatically lose the segment. So I'm going to start off. My escape from reality is the new look Baylor Bears after week 1. They, the defense looked much better. It was Tarleton State, but defense was a lot more effective. Offense was a lot more dynamic. Don't do that. I'm not even going to say it because it's not PG friendly. So their offense looked much more dynamic. Reminded me a lot of the old Baylor offense before they decided that they needed to line up in the pistol with multiple tight ends and limited receivers. But the receivers looked fast, and if the new quarterback addition, DeQuan Finn, can clean up his deep ball accuracy and be a little bit more on time with his receivers, I think they have a solid chance of having success in the Big 12 this year, and then can have some stability for the seasons following, where they have made a lot more effort within recruiting and getting players a little bit of financial compensation. So that is my escape from reality, and I will give the floor back to Owen. Hopefully he does not pretend that he is, a diehard Baylor fan when he has been an ultimate flip-flopper of teams the last couple of years.
I did not know that going to Macomb's business school in Austin would cause such anger. But I am curious though for Baylor, if I know that their recruiting class for next year is going to be really good. So I'm curious if they are going to redshirt a lot of those guys or if they're going to play. My escape from reality, I am curious to see how the quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers and other ones that had their seasons did not, due to health reasons, did not go the way they would have liked them to. I'm curious to see how those go, because the league's a lot more fun when Aaron Rodgers is, throwing 60-yard bombs off one leg or just being Aaron Rodgers. I also am curious to see how the Bears play. The Bears are always one of the teams that you thought was going to be an easy win, and they have basically a new wide receiving core, new quarterback who everybody's crowned like the best thing ever. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And they put a lot of money into their defense. So I am curious. The NFL should be a really fun year, barring or hopefully injury free. But it should be a really good year. I'm excited.
Well, good. That nobody failed the goal of the segment. So great job to us. Clap, round of applause for us.
I did that once, and I will never do it again.
Well, you know what you will do again is lose in the predictions of records week to week. You've had two really bad performances, and it will once again be me winning because I know you
for a draft pick.
Because I know you. Whether or not you say I will be more positive, you will always find yourself picking against Dallas way more than you should not. Or way more than you should. So I'm looking forward to be a 3-time record champion.
B to B.
And I feel like I have a much bit better chance than the Kansas City Chiefs do of three-peating, even though they have a pretty good chance. But I'll leave it at that. It was I would say a solid return to this great show.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week. We'll be doing one episode a week. So first portion of the episode will be a breakdown of the previous game and any news or blockbuster trades or whatever. And then we'll conclude the episode in the second half talking about the upcoming game. And depending on who the Dallas is playing the previous week and the following week, it could be a shorter episode or a longer episode, depending on that. But we're going to do one episode a week. So we will see everyone next week to hopefully have our pom-poms in the air after a Cowboys win. And if not, well, then
sunglasses.
I'm sure we'll have sunglasses or something else planned. But yeah, I'm Ray Nickens. Thanks for watching. I'll give the floor up to Owen and he can close us out.
Yeah, just go Cowboys. I just hope to see a much more well-rounded team, like you've mentioned. But yeah, just healthy, and yeah, go Cowboys. Thanks for tuning in,
Go
y'all.
Cowboys.